Hello. So I've made more than enough videos talking about my narcissistic personality disorder. I mean, don't worry, if that's why you come onto my channel, it's not like I'm gonna stop making those videos, but I figured there's something else that, I ought to talk about because I suspect that a lot of you who do watch my narcissistic personality disorder videos probably do wonder about my childhood and well, then again, maybe it's not really something that you wonder because a lot of the information is out there when people talk about, oh, the childhoods of those that have NPD or BPD, even ASPD, or let's just say cluster B disorders in general. They're often not the happiest tales that you'll hear from people within the cluster of these certain personality disorders. Now, I've never really made a video talking about my childhood in particular. I don't really know how to go about it, but then I remembered that I also have gotten this diagnosis, so I suppose it's a place to start. Now, how is it that you get oppositional defiant disorder? Well, essentially, it's a problem with authority, a problem with, understanding that there are going to be people that are perhaps higher than you. And this is primarily why I would say that what all these cluster B disorders have in common is you know, is perhaps like a higher propensity to have antisocial behavior. So this is a good place to start for me because as far as I could remember, I've always hated people telling me what to do. I remember this since like a very young age, since I was conscious of like myself and my connection with other people. I mean, it's funny because I use that word connection, quote unquote, but I just mean that in its most like basic form because I think as far as I could remember, I've never truly felt attached to anybody. And this is like the difficult part. I don't know if that's because there's something wrong with me. Well, there certainly is something wrong with me, or it's also due to how the people in my life have, impacted me. They're, you know, it's a combination of both, let's just say. Because when you look at, for example, how cluster B disorders develop, there's, good cause on like the nature versus nurture end. And I think that's what makes it complicated for people to say, oh, there's just something wrong with you in your head, or there's like a whole bunch of like, traumatic things that have like occurred. It's too much of a mess. I think that's just how toxic it is basically. But back to, oppositional defiant disorder. I think the reason why I've been hesitant to accept a lot of people helping me is because I've never known what it's like to trust somebody. I've always felt suffocated whenever authority, let's say my parents, the teachers at school, or let's just say any adult in general, would be, telling me, how I should do things or what I should do. I always felt like in those situations. And to be fair, maybe in some of those cases, a lot of them did even perhaps have my best interest at heart, but it's just not something that I could, fathom. And even up until now, like just people in general, sometimes I still can't fathom that somebody can actually care about me. Somebody can actually, I don't know, see me as a person and think, yeah, I like being around that guy or whatever. So, why is it that somebody might have, a disdain for authority as a kid? Well, at least speaking from my point of view, yeah, I have never trusted anybody. It's always been a default mode for me, as far as I could remember, to question the intentions of other people. So naturally, I gave other people a hard time. I would argue with them. I would be super, irritating. I would never understand when people are like, oh, just be a team player. And I think to myself, well, you know what? Fuck all of you. Like, well, why should I be a team player? Like, I don't want to be associated with you like sheeps, or you, I don't know, you fucking like disgusting cockroaches, let's just say. Because in my eyes, as far as I can remember, I have always perceived another person as somewhat of a threat. And it's strange because as I've, gone through the years, there are people that go through their life and they're genuinely relaxed. But I think for me, I always would have expected that if you like grow up and like experience this like stupid, disgusting world, it makes sense to always carry like a little bit of anxiety with you because you could never actually drop your guard down. And I think when I look back at it now, there were things that a lot of people just didn't understand. They might possibly think like, why is he giving everybody a hard time for no reason? Why is he arguing about this? Why is he being so petty over this or like whatever or something like that? And I mean, it is truly sad because just like I envy just how secure I've seen other people, whereas I've always felt like I'm in a constant like defense mode because I'm like looking after myself, thinking that like at any moment somebody's gonna screw me over. If at like any moment I accept another person's advice, or if I, you know, get along with like everybody, then it would be my fault if one day they just all grabbed their pitchforks and revealed their true nature, which I always have thought, was something evil, something, sinister, because the idea that people are not just out for themselves is something that I cannot comprehend. I have a very cynical point of view, and I've always just seen everybody as selfish. And as I grew up, it always made sense to me that in order to survive, you have to be selfish. You have to, I guess, put yourself over anybody else because, like, what's it going to be? Like, you stomp them or they stomp you. It can only be one of the two. So just having to listen to another person, especially somebody who, is supposed to be perceived as having like higher authority than you, especially when you're a kid. I think like I mean, I think everybody complains about like ageism at one point in his life where it's like, oh, I don't want to be seen as a kid. I'm getting older, blah, 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 like whatever. But I think for me, it's like I've always had this issue because these things were like never comforting to me. Like whenever I would hear anyone say something, or let's say like an adult and be like, "Oh, I've I've already been through this. I'm like blah 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 years old," or like, I'm years ahead of you. So, I'm like guiding you. I'm just like, shut the fuck up. Or at least like that's what I thought. It's like no, like what are your credentials exactly? Like you have to prove yourself to me, and I'm not just gonna take you at like face value for like whatever the hell it is that you're saying. So oftentimes when I look back at it now, I get the sense that a lot of people did think that I, was just being difficult for no reason. And I don't know, there's a part of me that always thinks, no, I was not difficult for no reason. Again, it just like flip flops because I split on a lot of my perspectives. So growing up, it was just, I don't know, it was just a way to feel that, okay, if I argue with everybody, if I, show everyone that I don't like bow down easily, then it's weird because it always made the environment, obviously like sort of toxic or, chaotic for like no reason. But I guess in like my point of view, I did feel a sense of like, security. And it's weird because I've had enough arguments in my life, probably more than the average person, honestly, if I'm being honest. With like every single person that I've met, I have gone out of my way to pick a fight, I think, in some form or another. Maybe in a lot of cases, even when I don't realize it, because like in a way, it is stimulating to have that like back and forth as well. So I think like if I'll be honest, a lot of times where I would let's say like pick debates, pick arguments for like no reason, it was just something to I guess like entertain myself, or it's like maybe even I felt so insecure that if everybody else was uncomfortable, then we're all in the sinking ship. So in a weird way, that does make me feel comfortable as well. Or I don't know, or at least like maybe I just tell myself that like look at these like dumbass like ignorant idiots that are just like controlled by the quote unquote like higher ups, whether that's our parents, whether that's teachers at school or anything like that. Like look how fucking annoying they are. So I'm just like why don't these stupid bitches like prove themselves if they have it. So, I relished because at least like in my eyes, it showed me that these people were just, super weak. So if I was ever like annoying and, irritating or just like not letting anything go when like nobody cared, to me it was justice served in a way because like if I can see all this like ignorance everywhere, then I don't know, to me it was like something that like I wouldn't be able to stand for. So I'm just like, okay, here's the reason why you should be miserable, because we're under a dictatorship, we're under this, we're under that. I always had something to complain about. Like every single person that like I typically spoke to, like I would just be annoyed whether at them or about something else. Anybody that would lend a listening ear, even somebody that didn't want to listen, but they just so happened to be at like a close proximity, I had something to complain about. I had something to be, you know, hella like bitter about. And it's just, I mean, yeah, it's just fucking like miserable, honestly. And it's like the existence of the world just irritated me then, and in a way, it still like irritates me now. So sometimes I wonder like what like progress I have actually really made since then. I do believe that I'm actually not as argumentative as I was back then, but I do have those like inclinations, even if I don't say them out loud. Like whenever somebody's like saying something, and I'm just like in my head, I'm like coming up with reasons like, okay, you're a stupid moron because X, Y, and Z. I try really hard not to like, let that out. Because I guess like it wasn't really excusable then, but I guess like, the younger you are, people excuse immaturity more because, the younger you are, kind of like what I said, but oh, you're older now. You're supposed to be like mature or, whatever. So I don't know. To like wrap it all up, like oppositional, like defiant disorder is I guess also okay. Another thing. I guess just like wanting myself to be constantly heard because, with like authority, my parents, people at school, or like whatever, I always felt like I was somebody, that was being like trampled on. So like in a way, it's like I might as well have just been like fighting for my life. And it's weird because I'll be honest, like deliberately annoying people had its perks because it did make me feel powerful. But I guess just like the sad thing is though is that like I don't think anybody could tell that a lot of what I was doing was just me trying to feel like my own self-preservation. And perhaps they wouldn't care anyway because all they would see of me is just, oh, like a super fucking like annoying person. But I guess like, I mean, it worked. But then again, like nobody's happy because I always felt that the hatred that other people might have felt for me because I was being disruptive, I was being annoying, I was being this, I was being like that. It's all that I felt on the inside about me, about like the world. So it it was just like I mean it's yeah it was something that like finally like I guess like made me feel something because in a way it was my way of like turning off the world, like oh the universe is like so extra, look at this person, that person having like their fucking stupid extra conversations, and I might be here and I might be ranting about something to somebody or just criticizing everything, being critical about like everything, and it's like the way that I saw the light from like other people like dimming down, or if like I was like crushing their spirit so to speak, and they felt the same way that I did, like it was peaceful. If I just have to be honest, it literally was peaceful because it felt like everything finally quieted down. But yeah, it just made for I don't know, an irritated environment. like nevertheless, but as much as possible, like that's my way of like I guess getting to explain it, I suppose.